I chose two people to talk about for this series on who our Black heroes are. And I chose Ida B. Wells and Grace Jones. So I guess we'll just start talking about Ida B. Wells. She is one of my heroes because I discovered her when I was reading James H. Cone's book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree, which is about like the connection between Christ's suffering on the cross and just the Black experience in America, specifically lynchings. And she was referenced in that book because she was a journalist at the time who reported on lynchings. Really, she was just so dedicated to the cause of really documenting the specifics of what happened at all of these events and really advocating for the Black men who were victims of these murders. And the reason she stood out to me in the book was because she was referenced in speaking out against Dwight Moody, who was someone who was well known to me from where I grew up in Indiana. He was like one of the most famous evangelicals like of all time. He was like one of the founding fathers of evangelicalism, and he founded a Bible college in Chicago that's still around today, and I knew lots of people that went to Moody Bible College, and so he was a prominent figure just in my mind and in my life, and everybody from where I'm from talked about him like they loved him. He was lauded, and as I was starting to come out of evangelicalism, like I was starting to kind of see like all of its hypocrisy, but specifically a lot of him, and being like, why do we still call this college after him when he advocated for segregation and all of these things that nobody really talked about when I was growing up. And so to see somebody who in that time in like the 80s, I think is when she was really writing, to see somebody then speak out against that culture, just like she was so just confident and determined, and just really spoke her mind in a way that when I read about her now, like the way people write about her is that her words and her style of writing were really revolutionary for even like today's standards. Like she was really bold and fiery, and I just like really admire that in a woman, especially a woman from like the 1800s. Like that just seems so just powerful and like yeah, so that's why she's one of my heroes. And for Grace Jones, she also I didn't really know about until later in my life when I was discovering drag and the history of drag, and why drag was important to me. And she was a huge part of that culture in the 70s and 80s, I think, and like all of the Studio 54 culture. And she also grew up in a very like strict religious household, and just left and moved to New York when she was like 18, and became a really huge icon of the queer culture of that time. And I think the main reason I admire her so much is because I think I know how much like self-love and assuredness and just confidence it takes to leave that upbringing and be so bold and so speak about sexuality and like just like all sorts of taboo topics so openly. And a lot of her art was in fashion, and like the looks she created and featured her face and her body so heavily. And I think that it just takes a lot of inner strength to come out of the shame of that type of upbringing, that type of religious upbringing, and really fully embrace yourself and love yourself so much to like create such revolutionary art out of it. And she just became such an icon to me for those reasons. So those are my two Black heroes. Yeah, this is a bad way to end it, but yes.